I want to take the moment to welcome you all to this session, to this series, Industrial Solutions Series 1. And this particular session is focused on the power of the people in supply chain. So today, we will be talking about with the supply chain navigating through the unprecedented challenges from workforce shortages to technological shifts and global disruptions. Building resilient, forward-thinking teams has never been more critical. In our session, we'll explore how to imagine talent development to meet these challenges head-on and prepare for the next wave of leaders for success. So, welcome. I hope you enjoyed today's session. I would be passing the mic to Joe. I will take it from here. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is John Alford, and I am been in this industry for over 30 years. Did a lot of different things in supply chain, from operational roles to business development roles to corporate roles. Most recently in my career, the past 15 years or so, I've been involved with learning and development and training. A lot of that was with UPS. And so I'm going to share some of the learnings that I've had from the real world around training people in the logistics and supply chain industry.
Thanks, John. There will always be technical difficulties, forever. My name is Kerry Dittman. I'm the CRO for FreightPath. To me, my background, I like to call myself 20/20 vision. I've got 20/20 vision. I spent 20 years on the freight and logistics side of the business, operations and sales. Actually started out at Continental Airlines, believe it or not. What they called throwing bags. That's the baggage that went in the airplanes. Where did everybody get started in supply chain?
You've come a long way, man.
Come a long way. But my career went into that of Circle, so I got into the freight forwarding side of the business, more on the sales side, but operational background. Panalpina for several years, EVP of sales and marketing. And then I got into the tech space, so the software space. So GT Nexus, I spent 8 years there running their sales organization that's now Infor. That was a different world. And then from there, another company with regard to ocean freight called Clear Metal. There's too many to remember. And then Project 44 most recently. And then I met John. John I've met since my Panalpina days, so some 20 years ago. And he was recruiting. He's going to tell you a little more about himself, but that's where we met. And since he came back, we got back together over the years and decided to put this company together as FreightPath and take a whole different angle, which is more on the education side. So excited to do that, kind of give back a little bit to the industry with what was learned over the years. So excited that everybody's here today to kind of hear what we're going to say. Thanks.
Hey there, I'm John Delgado. It's great to be here. Great to be with you all. I got my start in this crazy business 26 years ago as a headhunter and worked my way up over 26 years into the C-suites of a lot of the global 100 freight forwarding companies. And one of the things I started seeing a few years ago is for every one sales position that was open, there'd be 15 to 20 open operations roles. And that just kind of stuck with me for a variety of reasons. But one of them was these positions would stay open for a very long time. And while I was thinking about this, I got a weird call from a friend who actually is a pretty high up guy at Kuehne + Nagel. And he said, come meet me at my house this weekend. I have a tremendous idea for you. It's worth a 6-hour drive. So I came to his house and he said, there's no formalized training on the freight forwarding side other than in Europe. And if we were able to tackle that program, you could build on it and start influencing 3PLs, supply chains, and expand it out. But I have to tell you, it's going to be a terrible, arduous journey. It's going to take millions of dollars, several 100,000 man-hours to put together. But I'm willing to offer up the SMEs and subject matter experts that you're going to need. And I said, well, is that all? And he's like, yeah, that's it. And I had established a very well-known company called Search Logistics in the supply chain space, and decided that I was going to make a pivot. I talked to my wife. She was 100% on board. She's like, let's do it. So for the last 3 years, we've been developing this program, and have just come to market with it, and that's Freight Path. And we have over 2,200 hours of learning, 137 courses, blah, 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 blah. What we're more interested in, for example, is, I'm just curious, just maybe by a show of hands, how many people in here have a 4-year supply chain degree? One person. Three. 4, 5, 6, okay. Okay. How many of you planned to be in the business? Like you on purpose? Okay, very cool. A couple. Very interesting. There's a huge gap right now, and that gap still remains, and it's actually getting worse. There's not enough people coming into the business, so much so that we're seeing a lot of baby boomers who have incredible knowledge staying in the business, people like Joe, people like Carrie, for a lot longer. And what we're trying to do is bridge that gap and bring in all the cutting edge technology and everything else. And we're still trying to figure out the secret sauce. How do we do that? So what we're interested in today, and we really, really want your participation. Joe's going to go around and be talking with you guys. We really want to just understand, for those of you who are in the industry, how you got here, how you were trained. Was it tribal knowledge, which seems to be the underlying theme, which is just your boss saying this is how you do it, and you learn, and it's on the job, versus something that's formalized. So let's have fun. Let's learn together. Joe's going to moderate and go around, and we want to learn about past methodologies. But what we're really interested in is, in a perfect world, if you could design training that's custom for you, where you would learn at the highest levels and assimilate very quickly, what would that look like? So that's kind of where we want to get to. And at the very end, when we wrap up, we want to talk to you about the paradigm shift that's about to happen within a year to 18 months. AI is going to change everything. What you think of as an elementary school or a high school college experience, within 12 to 18 months, it is not going to look like what it does right now. That's the level of AI that's happening. And I know we have a few AI experts in the audience who are nodding their heads in agreement. And it's true. It's going to blow your mind. And when we wrap up at the end, we'll kind of talk about that a little bit, what's coming down the pike. But super excited to get started, and thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, oh, sorry, now I'm too loud. You might want to turn me down a little bit. I got a quick note from CSCMP. So you have the app, I'm assuming? They want you to rate this track, and specifically, very good ratings. That's what they said. So launching from what John just talked about, we wanted to talk about what's not working in the space, and not necessarily where you're at today, but where were you 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when you were earlier in your career? What didn't you get that you needed? So we all got here, as John just mentioned, through on-the-job training. It was piecemeal. It was anything but strategic. So I want to hear from you guys. Again, we know what we went through. We don't know what you went through. So who's first? Who's going to tell me what they lacked, what they felt went wrong earlier in their career when they didn't get the development that they necessarily wanted? I'm walking. John Monroe, step right up.
I think I was more fortunate than most, because when I got out of grad school, I was secured a position with Malcolm McLean's U.S. Lines, and they trained me diligently. So I was not working for quite a few months. I did everything from dispatch vessels to, to stow vessels, to dispatch trucks, to pricing, to sales training, product knowledge, and then they finally gave me suits and put me in. So they really took me and dressed me, as well as trained me. But there's nothing like that today. So everything else since then, I've had to learn pretty much on my own. And in some of the companies that I've worked for, I've actually put together training programs. And that's why I'm excited about FreightPath, and that's why I'm involved with what they do.
Awesome, thank you so much. We got another brave soul back here. So tell us your experience. What's your name?
My name's Robert O'Dwyer. I spent 38 years in the industry in various operational roles, the last 7 with UKG, which most of you guys probably know as Kronos. But personally, what I think is lacking is, what I see is operational training is always great, for the most part, understanding product, but people training, so understanding how to manage conflict resolution, how to identify work styles and expectations, whether using, Bain's model or a different model. That's really what's most important when you're talking about the power of people, understanding their value, their work styles, their expectations, their life experiences, and how to create the most value for them and for your organization both. And to me, that's what's always been lacking. Like I said, I ran facilities for Dr. Pepper Snapple Group, Container Store, Martin Brower, Americold Logistics, Millard Refrigerated Services, and about 3 or 4 others. And really understanding people management is what's been lacking, because operationally, most places do a good job at training that. It's the people side that really gets left behind.
Thank you, Robert. So I know the panel has something to say about that, because we talked about it quite a bit. We have a more diverse workforce than ever before, and then there's older folks like me, and then there's this young cohort, and there's very different communication styles. I keep calling them on the phone, and they keep texting me, so. Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think one of the things that, and John's got more experience with this than I do, but was a lot of the Europeans have kind of looked at the old apprenticeship type programs. I mean, they're kind of rooted in that and really helping people come into an organization. I think the saying goes, it's in Europe, they know a doctor or a lawyer or you're a logistician, and they're all rated kind of the same. And until COVID came, logistics was kind of fallen behind, and always has been. I think CSCMP has always worked on trying to get that pushed up to the C-suite, and it's so important in this business. I think to the answer or the overview you just gave, working with people to figure out kind of where they are at relative to their value that they could bring to the company. I think being out on the street and talking to companies, that seems to be what's lacking with regard to how do you assess somebody. You got an air freight opening and you put an ad in the paper, you hire a couple air freight folks and they stay in that position for 10, 20 years. Different way to look at it would be to be able to assess kind of where their skill sets are from an assessment standpoint. And those are some things that I think companies are starting to look at, but I think it's even more important today with the workforce that's coming in that'll be the future leaders. Kind of where do they fit? What skill sets do they have where they're going to aspire within the organization?
John Delgado, John A., you want to add to that?
So one thing that I believe happens, whether it's a transportation freight forwarding company or whether it's a manufacturer, shipper, I think people can get siloed. They can be trained to do a job and they learn that job really well, but they don't necessarily get exposure to broad parts of the supply chain industry and the profession. So that's a real challenge for people to, if they want to move up, if they want to have a job where they are going to eventually have broad responsibilities, how do they learn more than just a specific role? So that's always a challenge.
Yep. John, do you want to add to something?
Yeah, I would just say that I think the top supply chain schools out there, one pivot they might need to make is that instead of making it supply chain only, broadening it a little bit to where they're starting to teach air freight, ocean freight, Incoterms. And it doesn't have to be super deep, but just giving them some exposure to the global world will help them accelerate even faster when they're boots on the ground at a 3PL or at a domestic forwarder. Having that international piece, because we are so connected and we are so global now.
Yeah, and to Rob's point, all of that training also probably needs to involve some communication, interpersonal skills, because you don't want to develop a technical wonk who can't talk to your customer, who can't lead
If I
a
could,
team.
I just got a message about a month ago from a CEO, and he said, could you please give us some training for our younger people coming in the business on how to talk to customers and how to send an intra-company professional email? And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, yo, what's up doesn't cut it. We need a little bit more professional training here.
Yeah, I can speak from my own experience in engineering early in my career, University of Michigan, where I went to school at night. We all had to take extra English classes because they said everybody complains that we're not writing good emails once we leave the business world. But that seems, good business emails are a big step up from what a lot of people are very comfortable with, which is just texting. There's a place for texting, but telling a customer your shipment was late, you don't text that. You make that phone call, no matter how badly you hate it. So, want to get back to it. What training do you wish you had? What development do you wish you had when you were younger in this space? Any more brave souls here? All right.
I had a very non-traditional background when I started. So I was a union hourly employee for 15 years and got my degrees, one degree at a time. Now I run global procurement. But I think one of the things that's missing out there is the schools are putting out good educations, they got the fundamentals and everything like that, but us as leaders are missing a mentor. So I wouldn't have the role I have now if I didn't have good mentorship that held me accountable, told me what I didn't want to hear, but at the same time gave me space to run and grow. And so it pains me when I see other areas of the team within our organizations is sitting at the C-level and I see talent that's ready to go, but they don't have a leader or a mentor. And it doesn't have to be your boss. Sometimes your boss is the worst mentor to have because everything is in a critical light then. But we need to do that with the talent. I have a couple of young people on my team, and if one of them's not a CEO or a CPO, then I haven't done my job. So that's something that the organizations have to put in place, and it's not like a development program or anything. It's just somebody who cares and wants to help others up in their careers.
Hey, John,
I love that. And let me add something real quick, John, then go to you. I feel like when I've seen mentors, it's always, I'm going to pick this guy who's going to make it to the big time. And the challenge with that is there's a lot of other younger people who are saying, I need a mentor, but they might not look like the next CEO. And so who mentors them? And I think if you don't formalize it, it becomes most people don't get a mentor. And the best people have plenty of mentors. Everyone's looking for them because they say that guy's going somewhere. And I think especially when we look at how diverse our next generation is, we have to figure out how to connect with them and mentor them. John Delgado.
I just had a quick question. The 4 young people right there, you guys right there, I'm looking right at you. What school are you guys from? Oh, right on. Amazing program there.
Go Vols.
Go
You guys play
Vols.
football down there?
Rocky Top. Go ahead and sing it for us. No, I'm just kidding. One thing that's super cool that we're, as a company, we're trying to figure out, and to the point of mentors, is, for example, you would never know that in this room right now are great people who are pioneers in the supply chain industry who opened up China. The guy who just spoke, who's one of our closest friends and partners, John Monroe, is actually married to a Chinese lady. He owns a home in China. He's there all the time, and he consults for some of the largest companies in the world. The knowledge and the people associated with CMP, they're not just members. These are people that opened up the world. And we have to figure out better ways to connect you guys with them and have them start downloading the culture, the information, how this, their secret sauce as to why they were successful. So anyway, just an observation.
Well, you got the mic. What are you guys looking for? All of you have to answer. So just think about it. You got a second. If you could have one thing that would help in your development that CSCMP could deliver, what would it be?
I would say more real world examples. So one thing we don't get in our classes is how does supply chain look like in the real world? We might learn demand planning, operations management, but we don't know exactly what we're going into. Our internships prepare us only so much until we get out there and experience what it is.
Hi everyone. I'm just going to kind of bounce off of what Kush said. I would say, I always tell my dad I feel like I've learned a lot more in my internship experience than I have in the classroom. And I think kind of going back to that conversation about training or what do you look for, what is something new you can add to it, I think just having more real world hands-on experience, I think is definitely something that would be kind of beneficial to add.
Hello everyone, my name is Hannah, and I think something that a lot of our professors need to highlight on and encourage all students is no matter your year, freshman to senior, it's never too early to start looking at internships and start looking at opportunities to get involved in the real world. So both of them highlighted that, but I think getting a mentor with somebody that works at a company that you're interested in or just having job shadowing early in your career is super important. And so I'm a very big advocate with that.
100%.
Hello everybody, my name is Zachary Matthews. Kind of backpacking off what everybody's already said. I think University of Tennessee has done a great job of, you guys mentioned connecting us with mentors and stuff like that. I think they've done a great job of offering those opportunities, and for the students kind of like us that want to take advantage of opportunities and get out there and meet people and make those kind of connections. I just think that that's really important, and having those real world experiences and examples is great. So yeah.
Sounds like we're in good hands here with these
Hey, Joe's
young
buddy, right.
people.
Right in the middle.
All right. Appreciate all the participation. And Charlie, you're next.
Hello, my name is Chris Thompson. I'm Director of Customer Supply Chain at Winland Foods. Kind of going back to your earlier question, one of the things that I've seen as I try to get new talent in is I would highly recommend people don't shy from customer service. I started off my career in supply chain and customer service, and to me, that's where you get so many good skill sets in terms of just understanding the entire supply chain, whether it be logistics, transportation, people skills, resolution conflict, quality. I mean, you get just exposed to a lot, and I noticed that I'm kind of preferential when it comes to hiring people if they have that background. So don't shy away from customer service. It's a great leaping board. It's a great sounding board into transportation, all the areas of supply chain, but and it also gives you a lot of great qualities to start off with. So I see that missing now. People get in the transportation mode, they stay there, warehousing, they stay there. Don't be afraid of getting into customer service.
If I may real quick, how do you differentiate yourself? Because I think you're talking about how do I create a white glove experience for my customer? How do I make them feel like they're it? How do I keep them? How do I retain them with such tough competition? How do you do that?
Well, I think the biggest thing is just making sure that, what I've learned is everyone has their own specific skill set and everyone has their own strengths. And I think it's building on people's strengths to go further versus saying, okay, hey, that's a strength, but here are things that you're not so good in. Harping on that. So I think for me it's just about, hey, building on people's strengths and letting them know, hey, even though you have these strengths, there's these things you need to work on versus focusing more on the weakness and letting the strength go away.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, thanks. Hey, just to expand a little bit on what you're bringing up about the customer service, I really agree. I think that's a great point. That you might remember earlier I mentioned that people can get pigeonholed by getting assigned to one particular job and getting really good at it and never getting a chance to do anything else. Customer service is certainly a way to force the issue and learn a lot more things. So thank you for bringing that up. Another thing is that people later in their career can really be valuable in customer service because they know what they're talking about, right? I mean, it's a great way for people to go as they want to do something else. And many organizations need senior customer service people, whatever they call them. Maybe they're account managers, maybe they're program managers, whatever it is. But that value of knowledge is really valuable to customers, and that can differentiate like you're talking about, John.
Yeah, that's, I remember, I would say the toughest job I had early on in my career was the customer service job that I had on the airline side. After I got out of operations, it was kind of a next step into sales, was customer service. And man, that was rough. I mean, but you had customers all over you all the time, it seemed, because they weren't calling you to say, hey, everything's great. They were calling to tell you that there's a problem, and you had to go find out and fix it. On the apprenticeship side, I wanted to pivot to that, the comment and the feedback that you just gave from the UT side. I think that's one of the areas. I was at a conference earlier this year at TPM, the Transportation Maritime Conference, and I was meeting with a group of executives to talk a little bit about Freight Path and what we do. And an intern greeted me at the door and brought me back to the conference room. And we chatted for a little while, and it was interesting because the more he said, what do you guys do and what's happening? And I explained to him what we do. It's more about learning the details and the nuts and bolts of supply chain in different areas. And he says, oh, that's great. He goes, I would love that because I'm kind of going from desk to desk within the organization, and I'm kind of thrown into it, and I don't know the backdrop. I don't know the terminology. I don't know what a TEU is. I don't know whatever. What's an Incoterm? So those kind of basics, you don't even think about it. You learn those over the years. But if you had access to that on the front end, it could be a real great accelerator in your career to really understand that piece of it.
As a headhunter in this space, I remember playing golf with people 20, 25 years ago and looking at them now. Now they're CEOs, they're running the world in logistics, supply chain. And the common denominator among all of them is education and pushing themselves to learn more how to be a better manager, learning more nuts and bolts training. And it really is the great accelerator and the difference. And, if I was going to encourage you guys, UT students, is learn everything you can. Not just about how to be a better manager, but the nuts and bolts. Because it's kind of like being a torchbearer. This generation's passing it to you guys have to pass it to the next. And everyone has different motivations for doing things, but you will absolutely 100% see, because of the shortage of people in this industry, that if you do that, your career will take off like a rocket. We see it every day.
I love it. I want to hear from my friend Charlie. She's also in the recruiting business.
Yeah, I can relate to a lot of what you've said, John. As a recruiter, I've recruited in this industry for over 20 years in the greater industry, and I will tell you just going back to the first question, what's been lacking and what still lacks is human leadership. And it's interesting when we talk to these job seekers, sure, they call us for so many different reasons, but a lot of times it's like, I'm just a cog in the machine, I'm just a number. And I can't blame them, because when we talk to hiring managers and they tell us, just get me a warm body, it's like, well, of course, we need to step it up and look at people for humans beyond their title, which is feedback, it's conversations, it's empathy, it's training, it's mentorship. So that is my opinion, that we just need more human in this industry.
That's great.
I agree. And if I could just build on that, I have a daughter who graduated Michigan State, great school. And she had an interview in Chicago, like half of the people from Michigan State, and it was to go bang the phones for a freight brokerage. And she said, I have a 4-year degree, why would I go do that? And she goes, they don't work out anyway. She goes, and she said, I didn't tell her this, she said it, 8 out of 10 people who get that job quit or get fired. And I was like, is that how we're developing tomorrow's leaders? Where you're like, hey, bang the phones, man. This side isn't talking very much. How's it going, Joe?
Good, Joe. Great discussion. There's a lot to unpack here. The one thing that I see that over the years is, supply chain is plan, source, make, deliver, return. How many different silos are in there? About 5 or 6? So when you say you know supply chain, you may only know one part of supply chain. It's been brought up, but what I find is, the folks that really make it, and all the folks around that have bounced around customer service, maybe even get some little bit of financial background, kind of helps. Some areas that we're not really talking about that are part of supply chain, sales, marketing, it's not just the logistics, not to say that logistics isn't important. I spent some time there, but I think that getting that experience of really the breadth of supply chain so you can then become a leader because you can appreciate things. And they mentioned customer service. Customer service sees everything. They see the pain of the customer. Unless you experience the customer pain, you really can't say you understand supply chain. I don't know how you guys feel, but that's a few thoughts.
Yeah, we had some prep sessions, and one of the things we kept saying was, our whole industry is an inch wide and a mile deep, and we need to be a little deeper across the whole, maybe 2 or 3 inches deep and a mile wide. So, gentlemen? John, we're going to run out of time, so we've talked a little bit about the problems. Can we talk a little bit about a more comprehensive approach to this training development? And again, this whole operation this week that we're part of is connecting, educating, and what was the other one? Developing.
I want to pick out some people because I know a lot of faces in here, but there's others I don't. I'm just curious.
Christopher.
Yeah, what do you guys do? Tell us about yourselves.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ahmed. We're here from Middle East, from Kuwait. We're working for a medical equipment company. We're running the logistics side of the department of the logistics side. And this is what we do, actually.
That's cool. Is it oil and gas related?
No, it's a medical equipment company. We're in the where our company is selling medical equipment, and they're just providing medical solutions for the private sectors and the government sectors in Kuwait.
Amazing.
This is what we're doing.
Yeah. Yesterday I was talking to some of the college students in this country, and of course I respect it and I agree with it. There's great reverence for people who are in law enforcement, in first responders. But when you think about it, they're only empowered because the supply chain gives them all the tools. And I think post-COVID, we're looking back going that the unsung heroes of the world are supply chain people. Chris, you want to say something?
Thank you for your 2 cents. Christopher?
So my name is Chris Boone. I'm a faculty member at Mississippi State University, so appreciate all the criticism of academia. It's well-deserved, so I appreciate that. But I also serve on the board of directors for CSCMP, and so this is a topic that's very obviously at the forefront of kind of what we're talking about and the organization, how we can better support our members and support the industry. And so one of the things that I kind of heard, connecting the dots, also a lifelong Vol fan, so I'd have sung along with you if you'd have broke out in Rocky Top. But one of the things I do a study every year, and one of the things we found this year is that only about 39% of the companies we surveyed in logistics and transportation industry indicated they have a formal learning and development kind of function within their businesses. And so you heard, they value these opportunities to grow, to develop,
to experience things. There's skills that you value. You said it, it's very broad and deep, right? So no one's going to come out having all that experience. So I'm really curious in terms of, what is it, or how are your companies approaching kind of addressing this issue, right? Providing the skills, the development opportunities that this generation desires. Actually, all generations, because everyone recognizes they need to upskill. So there's a lot of studies out there that show that up to 68% of people will choose a job based on the learning and development opportunities that exist. 48% of people will change jobs to go to a job that offers better opportunities. And so it's increasingly becoming an opportunity to recruit and retain talent. And so I'm just curious about your organizations in terms of what are you doing to try to provide that as a way of attracting talent, developing talent, and retaining talent?
Love it.
I love it. I love it. I'm going to try and summarize a little bit because I think we have like 8 minutes left. And so I thank you so much for all of the information we got from you guys, because one of the concerns we always have when we do presentations is no one's going to talk. And you guys were great. I think one of the things I heard here was we're still kind of piecemeal when it comes to education and development. And I think most people, to your point, want a career path that has also a learning path, that I'm going to actually be developed for the next level and then the next level. And I can also speak for the gray hairs here, is we still want to be developed. Even, and maybe your role is going to be more mentor at some point, but you still have to be developed. And I think the on-the-job, the tribal, the piecemeal that we've done isn't enough. If you think about lawyers or doctors, they have professional development that they have to do. We call ourselves professional, but we still have a piecemeal approach to it. I want to get the final thoughts from these gentlemen. So John A., you first, then Carrie, then John Delgado. You can wrap it all up.
All right, thank you. So first of all, as Joe just said, thank you all for your participation. It was really helps this make it engaging for everybody when that happens, so we're really glad that it did. And my final thoughts are really around something we didn't get to as much as we probably wanted to today, which is what is working in this space. We talked a lot about what maybe isn't working and touched on a little bit, but there is a lot that is working in this space, and I think we want to capitalize on that and highlight it and reinforce it. Part of it is what we're all doing here right now, right? CSCMP takes this seriously, and I think that's a great thing for us to remember and capitalize on what we're doing here today. And then the other thing is, as Christopher just said, these companies, this 39% of companies that have a formalized program or formalized department, sounds like a small number. Let's work with them. Let's encourage them. Let's get them to expand and really grow that number and grow what they're doing.
Carrie?
Thanks, John. Yeah, just to wrap up on a couple things that I heard and a couple things I wanted to call out. I think what's working right as well, I think being out there on the street, talking to companies, BCOs, 3PLs, some actually have a strategy around what they want to do. And others are just very reactionary. To your point earlier, right? Some of the opportunities out there to really get their arms around a plan for succession and to address the training side of things, need to be put in place. Baby boomers, right? We're moving on. 2030, I think that's kind of the cutoff. You got a lot of new learners that need to come in. You got to put some learning paths together for them, and they will be the new leaders, as Morrison said, right? I think the other thing he said that kind of caught our interest at the end there was that he talked about some of the I would say older generation or the folks currently at the top need to be thinking differently, right? Need to be taking a different approach. Might want to take some of the ways that have been done in the past and get rid of them and change them out. and we have to think that way. AI, we didn't talk a lot about AI. John did a little bit on the beginning, but I think he's going to wrap up a little bit more here with maybe where that's going and a touch of where that's going. I don't think anybody really knows. But I think that's going to be a big area. And just one more point is that, and it was made with Terry on the keynote side, Tony Esther, the Ohio State. He mentioned our partnership, CSCMP and Freight Path. So this today was not intended to be any kind of a commercial for Freight Path. It's really how do we as CSCMP and the educational side of things tie this together and figure out a path, forward. And your input today was very appreciated. So thanks for joining us.
Final word with you, John Delgado.
I was just going to ask, do you remember your life before the cell phone? Do you remember your life before you knew what Google was or the internet? That's the kind of wave of change that's about to happen with AI. In 2 to 5 years, your kids' elementary school experience, junior high, high school, university, it's going to be completely different. To the point of it's going to be an AI avatar teaching you one-on-one that's reading your biosignals on whether or not they're looking at your eyes, they're looking at your facial movements. Are you really assimilating the information? They will do an intake on you to understand what kind of learner you are. Do you have ADHD? Do you have any other barriers that are preventing you from learning? And they will instantaneously, in nanoseconds, adjust to you and how you learn and intake information. The whole world is about to change. And this isn't just us at Freight Path. I'm sure there's many other companies doing it, but we're certainly making the pivot, as are many other companies, embracing this new technology, and that is the future. One-on-one instruction, on the fly, from your phone, from your desktop, anywhere. And people are smart today. I can't even imagine how much smarter and how much faster the world is going to move. That's where we're headed with this. And we're super excited about what it looks like. It's a little bit scary. We've been involved in some conversations that seem kind of otherworldly. But at the same time, I think it's very important to stay relevant to today and figure out the best ways to upskill, and number one, and number two, fill in the gaps and bring more young people into this industry because we so need it. So super appreciate all of the interactivity today. Thank you so much, everyone, for participating, and hopefully there'll be a lot more to come. Thank you.
Thank you.